Now, immediately after that, you have strength, right? But with the Ace of Cups, that's great. Definitely a new beginning here. But the Four of Swords, and I'm going to say the same thing. When it comes to the Four of Swords, it is about taking a break, needing to have a break, needing to have a moment of silence to hear your thoughts, in some cases being a little bit too much up in your head and thinking about things, but it's not the Nine of Swords here. But I do think that it is about calling a truce, especially if you're dealing with this kind of shit in the past. And I swear to God, I don't know. These two immediately with the Four Swords right off the bat, right? Arguments, disagreements, somebody intentionally trying to hurt someone else. And then there is this deceptive nature, but I do think that for you, with justice being in the environment, it's definitely going to get corrected. Karma is definitely coming around here. So, whatever it is that you're dealing with here, as far as a relationship goes, it's going to be corrected. It's almost like somebody is trying to make amends, but I think for you, it's like you just don't see it. How are you going to correct what you have done is what I feel like here. But you're moving into a place with the Two of Cups and the Four of Swords where I feel like for some of you, you're just needing to take a break. Because I look at you coming out with the Queen of Swords and think that you're shutting yourself off. There's a reason why you're being cold and being direct, right? I don't want to deal with this kind of shit anymore. But I do think that with the Eight of Swords being your advice here, the same thing goes. You can't stay inactive when it comes to this. I do think that there is somebody trying to make amends, but I do think that for you, you can't stay stuck in a way of thinking about this, especially with the Four of Swords, right? Like there's no point in doing anything here because it's like there's no way that this is going to be fixed. Yes, you're definitely wanting things to be fair and balanced, but I still see you coming out. But then at the same time, though, I see you coming out and you're like, no, right? But then with the Page of Cups being hopes and fears, definitely with the Two of Cups in future conditions, this is about a reconnection for sure. The strengthening of a relationship, right? Feeling something new here, communicating emotions, being clear about how you are feeling. But I feel like there needs to be more open communication about that if that is what you're hoping for. It's like you're going to have to open up and say something just as much as somebody else is going to have to say something here. But, I still see you looking at the relationship and going, you know what? I've thought about this and this is how I feel and this is what I think. And with the Two of Cups, right? It doesn't have to be romantic, but I swear to God, that seems to be the theme for the entire week. I don't know what the hell. Oh my goodness. But I feel like this is what has been done to you. I feel like, for a lot of you with the Four Swords being there, being tired of dealing with this kind of, disagreement, dealing with the pain. But I still look at that Eight of Swords and I think, there is a way forward. You just can't stay stuck in a way of thinking about this, you know? But I do feel like you're done. You're done dealing with staying silent about things, but then also dealing with, people who are being sneaky and sketchy, but with justice being there, it's like, oh no, 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 no. That is going to get corrected. But I do think that with the Two of Cups, it could very possibly be about somebody who is trying to make amends, right? And I do see with the Page of Cups, a want to communicate the way that you are feeling or wanting to have that communication come to you, right? And opening the door for, a new beginning possibly here. But, with the Queen of Swords coming out, I think that it's you saying, I've thought about this and this is where I'm at, and needing to cut off what is happening here or needing to cut off the relationship altogether with these two, But there's still that connection, though, with the Two of Cups, and that's the thing. I mean, even when you're looking at it in the reverse, you're just talking about two people who are no longer on the same page, right? But I do think that it is very possible here that somebody may be trying to make amends, but I don't think that you are open to it. But there's a reason for that. I mean, looking at the 5 and the 7. Now, I do see the 7 of Pentacles, though, in looking at these two is like looking at how, to make the situation a little bit better. Because I look at the 7 of Pentacles and I think this is definitely somebody who is not happy with what they're seeing, right? But it is about continued growth. So what do you need to do here in order to see what you actually want? But with the 5 of Wands, it's almost like, especially with the Queen of Swords, I'm tired of not being heard. I'm tired of the fighting. I'm tired of the pettiness, right? And with the 5 of Swords, definitely. But with the Knight of Swords coming out, like I said, this is you. I've thought about it. I have thought about it, and this is what it is. I mean, being really harsh and direct. Because if you're dealing with somebody who's constantly like talking over you or trying to, I don't want to say that they're intentionally trying to get one up over on you with the 5 of Swords, but I do think it's about them saying shit that, is not real almost. Like they're intentionally saying it just to cause you problems. Because otherwise you wouldn't be coming out like this and going, I'm tired of not being heard. I'm tired of this stupidness. Here it is, straight and direct, right? But it's still about continued growth, though. But I think for you, it's you being stuck in a way of thinking about this, because clearly here you've thought about it quite a bit, but I still look at it and I think there is an opportunity for things to get better with that Page of Cups being there. Now, you could definitely be dealing with somebody who is, emotionally naive, right? And having to deal with somebody who is constantly having emotional temper tantrums, which could very much be what the hope and fear is surrounding this Page of Cups, right? The fear more specifically, and having to deal with this. But, I still look at that Ace of Cups and think it's the same thing. It's just that you are being a little bit more harsh, a little bit more direct. You're done. I feel like you're done more than anything. I still feel like the door is open, but there's a part of you right now that's just not seeing how anything else is possible as far as moving forward. Oh boy, the 6 of Wands. This is basically saying that, especially if you're dealing with a relationship that you are done with. You are done with it. You're done dealing with it. You're done. It's about putting yourself out there. Now, possibly getting some attention here because you're attracting something, because you're starting to enjoy life now that you're no longer dealing with that kind of shit, right? But I feel like it's you needing to put yourself out there, needing to enjoy life, not, constantly being wrapped up in this situation, especially for those of you who are done and you don't want to be stuck with it, right? Which this could be both, needing to not be stuck in a way of thinking, but then also, not allowing yourself to stay stuck with a situation anymore. And I'm seeing this one a lot. The Page of Wands, here's the thing. It is very possible that there could be a reconciliation here, but can you get past what has happened? Now, with the Page of Wands, beyond, giving into passion here, it's also about looking past appearances, right? Can you look past what has happened? Definitely there's passion there, right? There's an ability to kind of give into that. But really, it's up to you if you want to reconcile with someone. I'm torn. I'm like torn between, those of you who are single in a relationship. I feel like definitely needing to be over with, but then also there's still the possibility here of things getting better, But can you see past it? Can you see past what has happened? Can you give into that passion? Or are you questioning on whether or not this person can follow through here if they're coming forward and saying, I want to make amends? Are they actually going to follow through on that? Do they back out, though, because of you being like straight up about what you're no longer willing to deal with, Wow, Libra, the hell. But for those of you who are single and you're saying no, you have said no, you're done. You need to start enjoying the fun moments here and opening yourself up and putting yourself out there. I feel like this is an opportunity for, you to get attention, possibly from someplace better, because you're attracting this, right? You're attracting this by being more open to enjoying life instead of being stuck in this nonsense. You guys see me shuffle. You see me shuffle. I shuffle the shit out of it before I even get into another reading. And like I said, I feel like it goes both ways, depending on who the reading is for. It's either withholding things, somebody doing this to you, or you doing this. But I feel like this is you being done with it and done with dealing with this. But like I said, with justice, I do think that there is a chance here that somebody is trying to fix what they have done, but it's up to you, right? You can't stay stuck in a situation that, is not going to change, but then you also can't stay stuck in a certain way of thinking, though, All right. Thank you so much, you guys. Again, general readings, right? It's not going to be for everybody. And usually what I pull on is going to be the more difficult stuff, what people need to hear. If things are going good, enjoy your life, enjoy the good things, right? But man, for those of you who are dealing with this in a relationship, it's up to you, right? Like, I'm not going to tell you you need to say no and you need to be done with this. And I'm not going to tell you that you need to reconcile, though, either. But the opportunity is still there. It's up to you on how you want to deal with that, especially if you're having to deal with somebody who is like, throwing the emotional temper tantrum.